Victoria 3's Dev Diary number 3, entitled Buildings, was posted on June 10th, 2021. In it, Wiz spoke on, obviously, buildings and the role they'll play throughout the game. As in Victoria 2, buildings and their population of workers will be distributed amongst the states. We can see a screenshot giving a sample of what each state's user interface may look like. We see plenty of information within this screenshot, much of which will be covered in later dev diaries. In Victoria 3, each level of building will represent the necessary buildings and infrastructure to support a certain population of workers. Without qualified pops to populate them, buildings are useless. Even railroads and ports, which did not need pops to operate in Vic 2, will require them in Vic 3. When constructing a building, the costs will fluctuate based on the market. In Victoria 3, the process of building up your nation is designed to be a hands-on experience. In this dev diary, Wiz mentioned the team's desire to implement some sort of autonomous building construction, presumably to cut down on micromanagement. Ideally, however, the player will be the one developing the nation more so than the AI. While most buildings will be constructed directly, some will appear automatically. Subsistence buildings are one such example. Subsistence buildings are described as highly inefficient buildings that cannot manually be built or destroyed. Whenever there is a resource called arable land that is unused within a state, these types of buildings will appear. Peasants will work inside of these buildings, making a meager living until your nation industrializes in such a way that they may be employed in more useful constructs. Subsistence buildings will naturally downsize as the land is exploited more efficiently, as we can see in the screenshot. Urban centers are another kind of building which is automatically generated. They will employ shopkeepers and will provide multiple functions which Wiz promises to expand on at a later date. The level of each state's urban center is equivalent to each 100 points of urbanization generated by the state's other buildings. Government buildings are fully funded by each nation and provide the type of administrative aid Victoria players have come to expect. Government administrations will employ bureaucrats, who will produce bureaucracy to administer incorporated states and fund institutions. Universities will house academics, who will produce innovation to progress the technological development of a nation. Private industries are a broad label which encompass farms, plantations, mines, and factories. Capitalists and aristocrats own these buildings and, depending on the economic system, pay wages to the pops working there. Some private industries will be limited by the locally available resources. For example, arable land is used for agriculture and iron is used for iron mines. Buildings such as factories, however, have no limit, allowing them to expand and house as many workers as can fit inside. There are no arbitrary limits such as building slots in Victoria 3. The team aims for each building's limitations to come in a realistic and reasonable way. Development buildings are the final type discussed. They include barracks, ports, naval bases, and railways. These are said to often be government buildings that provide state-level functions. I am Nick Applesauce, and that is just the facts of Dev Diary 3.